Now, if you take a lotus seed and drop it in a glass of water, it might just stay there for years, even decades, or it might go rotten. So if you're wanting to grow lotus, there's a few tricks, one in particular, to get your seeds started. Here at Suan Sook Homestay, we really enjoy growing lotus and water lily, and we love to share this when we have guests that come to stay with us and want to know about what we're doing. We enjoy showing them our garden, showing them what it is that we love so much about growing lotus and water lily and everything else that we grow. Growing lotus isn't complicated, but there's a few things that will really help you get started. The first thing, as I mentioned, that the seeds are a little bit different. They're quite unique. They have a hard outer shell that's actually waterproof. So if you drop them in the water, maybe they'll grow, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll take years before they sprout. So what you need to do is scarify that outer layer, that hard outer shell of the lotus seed. And there's a few different ways that you can do this. Our preferred way of doing it is using a pair of clippers. I think these ones are designed for clipping animal claws, like your dog claws, and just taking off a little bit of the outer shell. Pansa's discovered that if you do it when the seeds are still young, they're still quite soft, so it's really easy. You've got to make sure that you clip the right end though. There's a pointy end and an end that's flatter. Once the seeds have rested for a while and maybe dried out some, they're not so fresh, it's actually easier to know which end is which, but once you've got it figured out, it's pretty easy. And what happens is that when you clip the seed or scarify it, you can rub it on a piece of sandpaper or a file, or even if you don't have any of these things, you can just rub it on a rough concrete surface. You want to rub it just enough to break through. If you rub it or clip it too hard, you're going to damage the seed inside and it's not going to work. The seed will actually go rotten or just disintegrate. So you've got to be careful just to clip away that outer layer, and this then allows the seed to enjoy soaking up that water, and it'll double in size within a few days, and then it'll start to sprout, it'll start to show signs of life. Once you've clipped the seed, you can pop it into a container of water so that it's submerged and just wait. It'll take a few days, it'll start to show some signs of life, depending on your temperature. Ideally, you want it to be between, say, 24 and maybe 30 degrees Celsius. And because, lotus are tropical plants, they like that heat, and then it's going to germinate and begin to grow more easily. And you'll see it as it begins. One important thing at this stage is that you've got to change the water every day, because it's going to get a bit murky, it's going to have some scunge growing in it, and this is not helpful. Another tip with the water is don't use chlorinated or fluoridized water. So if you're on a town supply, you can use this water, but you've got to let it sit for at least 24 hours just to clarify it. Otherwise, use some pond water or some rainwater or another source of untreated water. And if you are only on town supply, make sure when you scarify your seed and begin to soak it that you've got plenty of water set aside that is going to be able to be used to rinse and top up the water as the seed is germinating. And this can take maybe a couple of weeks. So you want to keep a supply of good clean water on hand so that you can keep the water clean and keep it topped up. And so just do this each day and do it very, very gently. Those new shoots and the roots that appear from the seed are very delicate. You've got to be very, very gentle. You don't want to damage them. Remember, they're at home, they're comfortable, submerged under the water and in the mud. So they're not used to being handled or touched at all. So you've just got to make sure to be very careful and very gentle with them. And you'll begin to see this nice shoot start to grow, and it'll pop up a nice little leaf after, sometimes even after 3 days, but usually 10 or 14 days, you'll start to see this leaf begin. Don't get too excited yet, you're not there. You've got to wait for the second leaf to come before you can think about starting to transplant your lotus. So keep it topped up with that good clean water. Keep it the water level just above the seed, so it's submerged but not really deep under the water, and this will allow the leaf to come up and float on the surface of the water for you. And once it is time to plant your lotus seed, once you've got those nice 2 leaves there, you're going to need the right size container and particularly the right type of soil. You can't use potting mix or anything that you might normally plant into. You want to use a clay, but it's got to be a clay that's not too dense. We've got a whole other video on this playlist, so you can check that out to find out the best type of dirt to plant your lotus in. And then, yeah, you need to choose your pot. You've got to start off with a good sized pot. The containers that we use here at Suan Sook Homestay are about this size. So you want a pot that's about 30 centimeters deep and probably 20 to 25 centimeters at the top. And we'll put probably 5 to 8 centimeters of the good clay in the bottom. Top it up, and not with too much water, but just enough to give it some breathing room, and probably about, again, 5 to 8 centimeters, depending on the length of your stem. So it's got to work so that the leaf can float on the surface while the seed remains in the mud, and this will give you a good start to your lotus plant. And once it's growing, once it's a bit more established and you've got the root established, then you'll be able to transplant it into a larger container. And you want to keep topping the water up to keep it at a reasonable level above the mud so that the leaves have got room to grow. Just keep an eye on it as it begins to grow, that it doesn't dry out. Another tip is that lotus are sun lovers, they're sun worshippers. They love to be in the sun, at least 6 to 8 hours or more of sun if it's possible. If they're not getting enough sun, their leaves aren't going to develop, their roots won't grow enough, and I'm sorry, but you're not going to see the flowers. Well, not for a long time anyway. They will flower if they don't have enough sun, but it'll take a long time. So the more sun they receive, sure, they will love it, they'll worship it, and you'll watch those leaves grow and grow and grow, and then your flowers will start to appear. That's absolutely delightful to watch when this happens. And of course, because they're such vigorous growers, they are vigorous feeders. They get really hungry, so you've got to feed them well, but wait until 2 or 3 weeks after you've replanted them, because if you feed them too soon, it's going to be detrimental. They need to settle in first. There will be enough nutrient for them to start growing and to get a good footing for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then just gently begin to feed them. Again, we've got another video on this playlist all about how to feed your lotus and when to feed them, so please do remember to check that out. And then it's a matter of waiting for the flowers to appear, and this will vary depending a lot, as I said, on how much sunshine and also what sort of temperature you're in. In a tropical climate like this, the flowers will bloom relatively quickly, sometimes even within a month or 2 of planting them, which is pretty amazing. They are vigorous growers. They really like the water, the sunshine and the food, and they respond when they receive enough of each of these. So there's some basic tips. That first one about scarifying the seed, about opening it up just enough and just gently so that you don't damage the seed inside. This will get you starting to grow the most beautiful lotus flowers you've ever grown. And if you've liked this video, please click the like and subscribe to this channel if you're new here, and check out these videos for more information about soil for planting lotus and about feeding your lotus once you're up and going. And thanks very much for watching this one all the way through.